Good day, everyone. So we are the Group 4 from BSBA FM2A. So our topic is Chapter 8, Management of Performance Appraisal System. So these are our objectives. So after this lesson, we should be able to give the meaning of performance appraisal and give examples. Know and understand the purposes of performance appraisal. State the different criteria in the development of measuring instruments. Learn how to evaluate performance of an employee and communicate the result of the appraisal in a way that the employee will understand, and identify the different approaches to performance management. So without further ado, let's begin this lesson by defining what is performance appraisal.
The purposes of performance appraisal. First is the strategic purpose. So a performance management system is a tool that should be aligned with the overall organization goals, followed by the department goals and individual goals. So strategic purpose, it should be linked with each activity performed by every department or employees. It allows you to determine which employees need additional training to work effectively, and it also serves to give insight on the future training due to innovation. The next purpose is the administrative purpose. So the performance management system is also sets of deciding factors for employees promotion, demotion, salary increments, transfer or and termination. Administrative purpose, it enable to identify the performers, non-performers, or underperformers employees in an organization. It merits the competency and skills levels of employees. Hence, it clearly defines the administrative roles as well and support the management decision. So the last purposes of performance appraisal is the developmental purpose. So it is the next purpose of performance management system is to develop employees who are efficient at their work. If the member of staffs are not performing efficiently, the performance management seeks to develop their performance. The the comment given during performance evaluation process usually isolate the employees shortfalls. But the advantages of performance management is that it not only identifies the shortfalls but also the cause of the issues. For example, a talent deficient, a motivation hitch, and or any hindrance holding the employees for being efficient. The manager are frequently uncomfortable dealing with their performance issues. So, these uncomfortable are quite necessary but eventually risk at the work relations in the group. If the manager gives a high rating to the employees, ignoring the flaws in their relation are s- within the team are saved, but the sole purpose of device performance management is not fulfilled.
The criteria in the development of a measuring instrument. Number 1. Validity. Validity is the extent to which the performance measure assesses all the relevant aspects of the performance. Often it is referred to as content validity. Ratings are valid if they are accurate measures of the employee's performance. It refers to the accuracy of the ratings in differentiating each employee in a in a group in terms of actual job performance. The rating scale must be able to show the degree of the employee's efficiency in the performance of his assigned tasks or duties and responsibilities. It is not quite easy to develop the performance rating instrument because we have to set standards against which to compare results. We have to compare the employees' records and work performance, which are not usually available or available only in a certain kinds of job. In some cases, they are not expressed in measurable terms. Number 2, reliability. Reliability, rating may be considered reliable if they are consistent. They are consistent if the individual employee in a group receives essentially the same ratings when evaluated at least twice by the same rate at different times or by different raters who are familiar with the work of the employee and have observed him perform his job. The same supervisor should rate the employee twice without reference to previous ratings and compare the results later to find out if the rating given is almost similar or closely the same, thereby determining the consistency of the evaluation. The other test of consistency is when the supervisor and the manager rate the same person and the results are not very far from each other. Number 3, acceptability. Acceptability refers to whether the people who use the performance measure accept it. Many very elaborate performance measures are extremely valid and reliable, yet many managers and supervisors do not want to use them as they consume so much time. Other employees may not want to be evaluated with the set of rating instrument, as they have to submit a lot of paperwork to prove their ratings. Number 4, specificity. It is the extent to which the performance measure gives specific guidelines to employees about what is expected of them and how they can meet these expectations. Specificity is relevant to both the strategic and developmental purposes of performance management. If the measure does not specify what the employee must do to help the company achieve its strategic goals, it becomes difficult to achieve its strategic purpose. The instrument must be able to pinpoint the employee's performance problems or it becomes impossible for the employees to correct their performance. The development of a performance appraisal system must be properly studied by the HRD and the instruments must be pilot tested on the basis of the above criteria. The panel of the committee must be involved in the test run of the instrument.
Developing and administering an appraisal plan. There are certain guidelines in developing and understanding appraisal plan using the following step. Number 1 is secure full agreement of line managers about the needs for the formal performance appraisal plan and for the purpose in which it will be used. A choice has to be made among several types of appraisal plan. Number 3 is enlist the cooperation of the supervisor in drawing up the appraisal plan. Discuss the factors to the use and uniform descriptions of instructions to be followed. Number 5 is provide training to those who will use the instrument. Training will provide enough knowledge on how the rating scale will be used to avoid bias and provide uniform appraisal of the employee. Number 7 is arrange for periodic discussions of the performance appraisal. Supervisors and their subordinates should discuss the good points and difficulties in the lapses in the performance appraisal. Supervisor should encourage better in performance, so the employee has the right to know his standing in the organization and to know his progress his to his performance.
Developing and administering an appraisal plan. Number 1, secure full agreement of line managers about the need for a formal performance appraisal plan and for the purpose in which it will be used. So in this number 1, a choice has to be made among the several types of appraisal plans. And number 2, secure plans of their companies and the existing literature on the subject to develop a plan best suited for the needs of the particular organization. In this number 2, the HRD should study all the other plans and make a careful analysis as to their suitability into the organization. In this also number 2, complicated plans should be voided. Number 3, enlist the cooperation of the supervisor in drawing up the appraisal plan. In these 3, discussing the factors to be used and the uniform description or the instruction to be followed. 4. Make sure that the purpose and the nature of the performance appraisal plan are explained to those who will make the appraisal. In this number 4, these are the first level supervisor and the department heads and those who will be affected by the appraisal. Number 5, provide training to those who will use the instruments. Training will provide enough knowledge on how to rating scale will be used to avoid the biases and provided the uniform appraisal of the employee. 6. Develop and achieve line and staff coordination. There should exist a mutual checking of employees' performance appraisal in order to be consistent and to provide uniform within and between departments. 7. Arrange for the periodic discussion of the performance appraisal. Supervisor and their subordinates should discuss the good points, the difficulties, and the lapses in the performance. The employee has the right to know his standing in the organization and to know his progress in his performance. 8. The appraisal system should be carefully used in selecting employees for possible promotions. 9. Provide for the challenges and review of the performance appraisal. The grievance procedure should be put in place if the employee is not satisfied with the rating given to him. In case there is a company union, the union representative should be entitled to challenge personnel decisions. A systematic performance appraisal plan helps supervisor to truly review the performance of their employees, and this probably is the greatest value in any organization. Line managers should participate from the start of the development of the program, for it's their line responsibility to evaluate the employee performance.
Okay, so let's proceed to approaches to performance management. So approaches to performance management. There are various approaches to the development of performance instruments that could be used by different organizations depending on their goals and objectives. So, yung iba nga pong performance instruments, nagpo-focus siya sa employees, attributes, behaviors, and results, and some are focused on overall comparison of individual performance. So, the following are the approaches used by various organizations. First is the comparative approach. The comparative approach of performance measurement consists of techniques that require the rater to compare the individual's performance rather with that of others. So, in this approach, usually uses some overall assessment of the individual's performance or worth and seek to develop some ranking of the individual within a given work group. So, the following are the techniques under this approach, the comparative approach. First is the ranking. So, this method provides a comparison of a relative qualities of performance among all the employees in a group or unit. So, the employees to be rated are ranked from the most efficient to less capable in each traits or quality used judging the employee's performance. So, dito sa ranking, syempre, nauuna yung sa most efficient and pababa. So, some of the traits or qualities are, yung tinitignan nila dito is quality of work, dependability, judgment, attendance, and attitude toward the job. So, the employees are ranked for each trait and as many times as there are traits on which the employees are to be rated. Thus, the employee may be ranked first in quality of work accomplished. Second is reliability. Third is judgment, and so on. Next, under this comparative approach, is forced distribution technique. This system uses a 5-point job performance scale in rating employees who are doing similar jobs. Under this method, it is assumed that a normal group or workers doing similar jobs fall into some such levels as superior, above average, average, below average, and poor. So the common group percentage would be 5, 20, 50, 20, and 5. So this means that yung superior is 5 and 20 naman yung above average, 50 naman yung average, 20 naman yung below average, and of course, 5 are poor. Next is paired comparison method. So under this method, the name of each employee who is to be rated is written on the card. Each employee to be rated is then paired with every other employee in the same unit. So in the process, the person rating the employee determines which of the two employees in each pair is superior in terms of the trait being considered. So the pairing may be made for such traits as quantity of work output, quality of work done, cooperation, and job attitude. So the pairing is repeated for each trait and for all employees in the unit. Cards are used for convenience in pairing, each card bearing the name of an employee. So, para nga malaman yung ranking ng bawat employee, tinatali nila yung mga score. So, the employees are evaluated individually and the rater circles the number that signifies how many traits or characteristics the individual has. The highest point is 5, representing superior. 4 is above average. 3 is average. 2 is below average, and 1 as poor. Next is the checklist method. This rating method provides a number of traits or factors with corresponding definition for evaluating the employees, written in the left-hand column of the form, such as quantity of work done, quality of work, attitude towards work, judgment, reliability, cooperation, punctuality, and others. So dito naman chine-check naman nung rater yung kung ano yung malapit na nagde-describe sa performance ng isang employee during the rating period. So some companies ginagamit itong method na to para mag-assign ng point values for each trait or factor, making a combination of the descriptive phase and the numerical scale. Each statement may be given corresponding weighted point. So, pag tinotal nila yon, the sum of these weighted points corresponding to the statements checked constitutes the employee's score. So, pag na-total nila yun yung pinaka-total score ng isang employee.
Unang approach for performance management is comparative approach. Sa comparative approach, dito yung magko-compare ka ng isang employee sa iba pang employee. So, sa comparative approach, meron tayong iba't ibang technique na ginagamit ng mga rater. So, una is ranking. Sa ranking, nirarank mo yung employee mo mula sa pinakamahusay pababa. So, nirarank mo sila base sa attendance, sa quality ng trabaho nila, yung saloobin nila doon sa trabaho nila, tsaka yung pagiging maaasahan tsaka cooperative ng employee. Pangalawa is force distribution. Sa force distribution, i-group mo yung ipagsasama-sama mo sa group yung superior, above average, average, below average, tsaka poor. Sa grupo na yon, i-assume mo na parang pare-pareho lang sila ng level ng trabaho, tapos tsaka mo sila i-rate. Yung pangatlong method naman ng comparative approach is paired comparison method. Sa method na to, Yung pangatlong technique naman sa comparative approach is yung paired comparison method. So, sa technique na to, ipe-pair nila yung sa paired comparison, gumagamit yung rater ng card kung saan nakalagay yung name tsaka rank ng employee. Tapos pagpaparisin yung dalawang employee, tapos i-compare nila yung mga katangian na sinasaalang-alang nila. So, magbibigay sila ng 1 to 5 na points, tapos pagkatapos nilang i-rate yung dalawang employee na yon, i-pair naman yung i-pair yung isang employee dun sa iba namang employee, tapos paikot-ikot lang sa iba-iba ng i-pair. Ganun yung sa paired comparison method. Yung pinaka-last na technique ng comparative approach is checklist method. So, sa checklist method, dito mo checkan yung mga statement na pasok dun sa quality of work nung nire-rate mo, kung yung sa attendance niya, yung punctuality, yung cooperation sa iba pang employee, ganun. So, sa bawat check mo dun sa bawat statements na yon, meron yung mga points na kasama. Tapos, ito-total lahat ng points na yon. Tapos, yun yung magiging score nung employee.
Next in approaches to performance management is the behavioral approach. The behavioral approach of performance management attempts to define the behavior an employee exhibits to be effective in the job. So sa behavioral approach, tinitignan nila dito yung mga ginagawa ng mga employee nila, kung nagagawa ba nila ng maayos yung mga trabaho nila. So, the critical incident. The critical incident approach requires managers to keep a record of a specific example of effective and ineffective performances on the part of each employee. So, dito sa critical incident, nagpo-focus sila sa essential duties ng mga employees. Ah, kung nagagawa ba nila 'to ng maayos. So, ito yung gumagawa yung mga managers dito ng mga narrative reports ng mga nangyayari or um, occurrences that involve the employee. So, these incidents are used to give feedback on employees about what they uh, do very well and those that they do poorly. Next is the behavioral anchored rating scale. So this builds on the critical incidents approach. It is designed to specifically define performance dimension by developing behavioral anchors associated with different levels of performance. So dito naman sa behavioral anchored rating scale, ito yung mini-measure nila yung employees performance by measuring them basis on um, predefined behavioral patterns. So, in developing the behavioral anchored rating scale, the manager gathers a large number of critical incidents that represent effective and ineffective performance dimensions. So the manager and the employee agree on particular incidents and use these anchors in the rating of the employee's performance. So, ang advantage naman nito is that they can increase inter-rater reliability by providing precise and complete definition of the performance dimensions. Ang disadvantage naman is that it can provide a biased recall of the incident. Next is the organizational behavior modification. This entails managing the behavior of the employees through a formal system of behavioral feedback and reinforcement. So, dito naman sa organizational behavior modification, ito yung technique ng personal management that focuses on improving observable and measurable work-related behavior. For example, is yung absence or yung tardiness, and also yung quality and or the quantity of work. So it builds on the behaviorist's view of motivation, which holds that the individual's future behavior is determined by past behaviors that have been positively reinforced. So it has the following components. So they define a set of key behaviors necessary for job performance. They use a measurement system to assess whether these behaviors are exhibited. The manager informs the employee of those behaviors and set goals for achievement. And lastly, feedback and reinforcement are provided to the employee.
The third in approaches to performance management is the result approach. So the result approach focuses on managing the objectives, measurable results of a job or work group. So this approach assumes that subjectivity can be eliminated from the measurement process, and that results are the closest indicators of one's contribution to the organizational effectiveness. So we will be examining two performance management system that use results. First is the management by objectives, or MBO. So management by objectives is used in most companies who believe in results as basis of performance management. So under this system, the top management defines the company's strategic goals and objectives and passes passes it on the next level of management and down the line. So the manager and subcoordinates agree on performance indicator, and these performance goals are then the points that will be evaluated at the end of a specific period. So the good MBO evaluation criterion is when the manager and the supervisor first agree and make clear goals and procedures to follow in a work or a task to be done. So to get into the realization of the strategic goals. So the management provides all necessary support and subcoordinates make the necessary commitment toward the accomplishment of the set goals and objectives.
Productivity measurement and evaluation system or PROMs. Layunin ng sistema na to na sukatin yung productivity ng employee tsaka mang-eduke sa mga empleyado na mas maging productive pa sila. Paraan din to para magbigay ng feedback kung gaano na naging productive yung isang employee. So, meron tong mga steps. Una is the manager and subordinates identify the product and the process of accomplishing the evaluation plus the level of quality of performance. So, dapat inaalam ng mga tagapamahala tsaka yung mga empleyado yung quality of performance nila para mas maging maayos yung proseso ng evaluation. Pangalawa, the indicators are established and will be made as basis for management evaluation. So, dapat yung mga namamahala ng evaluation, gumawa sila ng mga indicators or measurements or mga levels for evaluations. So, pangatlo is the staff establishes the contingents and possible problems related to the problem and the level of evaluation associated with them. So, dapat daw yung mga staff prepared sila for future problems during evaluation. So, yung panghuli is a feedback system is developed providing the employees and work group with information about their specific levels of performance and on each of indicators. So, kailangan daw sa huli, gumawa daw sila dapat nung mga patapos na yung evaluation, dapat gumawa na sila ng feedback dun sa employee na yun, tapos dapat ipaalam nila sa employee na yun kung ano yung feedback nila tungkol sa quality of work ng employee. Magbigay sila ng mga iba pang paraan kung paano maging productive yung isang employee na yun.
Imbis na evaluate niya yung the whole na semester ng performance niya is yung 1 week lang na yun, yung kinonsider niyang i-evaluate, i-judge. Next is 3, central tendency occurs when employees are incorrectly rated near the average or middle scale. Dito, it is sometimes called central tendency error. It is a tendency for a rater to place most items in the middle of a rating scale. Like for example, on a 10-point scale, a manager might place most of his employees in the middle, yung 4 to 7 na rating scale. So, nasa gitna lang siya. Next is rater's bias. Occurs when the rater's value distorts the rating. It may be unconsciously or quite unintentionally. Dito, rate biases are conscious or unconscious tendencies na nakakaapekto din sa kung paano yung mga supervisors o yung mga managers is nire-rate nila yung kanilang employees. This include biasness and favoritism. Dito they do not consider for the actual outcome ng performance ng isang employee. Number 5, halo effect occurs when a manager rates employee high or low on all items because of one characteristic. Halo effect, they do not judge someone based on first impression. Siyempre, dapat i-judge yung tao sa yung isang employee kung sino talaga sila, kung ano talaga yung performance nila individually, hindi yung nakadepende din sa ibang tao, sa ibang employee. Number 6 is contrast error. It is the tendency to rate people relatively with other people rather than the performance standards. Dito po, yung comparison is nangyayari to the other people, hindi sa performance nila. So, binibase yung evaluation sa ibang tao. Siyempre, comparisons can be helpful din naman talaga when it comes sa evaluation. Pero, but dito, sa contrast error is too much. Example, si Mike is very detail-oriented siya. As in, very detail-oriented. But, si Sharon is mas detail-oriented naman siya kumpara kay Mike. But then, nakaka-apekto yun sa evaluation ni Mike dahil pwedeng ang manager or supervisors nila is i-rate si Sharon ng mataas yung evaluate sa kanya while si Mike is mababa dahil nga ang alam nila is mas mataas si Sharon.
My name is Jeremy Andoyola from DSBA FM2A. The performance management appraisal feedback. Feedback on employees' performance is an important component of performance management. After appraisal have been complete, it is important to communicate them to the employee so that they have the clear understanding of how they stand of their eyes, their immediate superiors in the organization. It is imperative and that managers and superiors discuss their appraisal with employee. The following should be undertaken to give employees feedback. Number 1 is feedback as a system. So yung under yun is letter A is data. Data is an factual informations regarding observed actions or consequences of actions. These are facts that refer to what happened. Letter B is evaluations. Evaluation is the way the feedback system reacts to the fact and requires performance standards. Letter C is action. Action, a system in which data and evaluation influence actions. The manager gives specific suggestion regarding future actions the employee must take. Number 2 is appraisal interview. The appraisal interview presents an opportunity for the manager to talk about the employee potentials and also their weaknesses. It could be an emotional experience for the manager and the employee because manager must communicate both the praises and the constructive criticism in the evaluation. In this process, the manager should emphasize more on counseling and development rather than the poor performance of the employees. It uh, it should uh, it should be handled tactfully, as employee may feel resentment and conflicts my result, which could be reflected in future work relationship.
Effective performance management system. Number 1, consistent with the strategic mission and goals of the organization. Number 2, beneficial as a development tool. 3, useful as an administrative tool of management. 4, legal and job related. 5, generally fair and acceptable by the supervisor and the employees. 6, useful as a documentary evidence in all personnel actions. When performance appraisal is used to develop employees as resources for the company's profitability and advancement and as instrument for the employees' development, then it will work to the advantage of both management and the employees. The key is not which evaluation or appraisal form was used, but whether managers and employees understand the purpose. Viewed from this perspective, performance management evaluation and appraisal is still considered as a tool effectively developed for a functional organization system. Directed to its growth and development, organizations, formal or informal, need a system of appraisal and an instrument of a control. It is therefore important for organizations or companies to develop a well-studied appraisal system that is accepted by the workers and the managers and approved by the top management.